round table. Feels like Super Bowl.
Super Bowl all over again.
Yeah, we've done this thing before.
So how's your first owners meeting been so far from this perspective?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, first time being down here. Good experience. Get to connect with a lot of people.
Hey, Kellen, what do you think about the moves you guys have been able to make so far in this offseason?
Yeah, I feel like we've done a nice job of adding real value to our team, and obviously it's the beginning process of the whole offseason where you're continuing to try and acquire guys throughout this whole process, and so I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
You had some additions, but there's also been a lot of retention, bringing guys back, everything. Was that kind of your understanding of how things would go when you were talking about the job, taking the job, all that, or is that?
Certainly when you go through free agency, players have a choice, and I think that's an important aspect of free agency is they have a choice as well, and so we feel really excited that a number of guys really had a high desire to come back to New Orleans and be part of the team, be a part of the community, and so it was really cool to get to know those guys in a short period of time as they've gone through their process as well.
What was that process like for you, try to get to know everybody? I mean, you took the job after the Super Bowl, and then free agency was still like a month after that. What was that like? How'd you go about that?
Yeah, just trying to connect with anyone who may have questions as they go through this process. Obviously, there's a lot of relationships that will continue to build, especially when we start OTAs coming up in a couple weeks, and so it's a whole long process.
How was it felt for you just working with this scouting staff and going on some of these trips and speaking their language, kind of so to speak, for the first time, and just integrating and all that?
Been great. Jeff is a rock star. His ability to connect that scouting department, connect the coaches. We've done a ton of work over the last week and a half of just kind of teaming up on this scouting process as we've gone through this college cycle here, and so starting midweek this week, we'll start going through the readings of the draft prospects from a coach's perspective and kind of truly teaming up with the scouting department, and I'm really excited about that.
Is there like a chemistry building process between you and the scouts and the staff and the scouts?
Certainly there's a language thing that you're always just trying to connect each other, connect how everyone sees it, how everyone sees the evaluation process, how you see the players fit in your certain scheme, because obviously there's some transitions there, and so all conversations have been great.
How does the scouting department, how is that impacted by a coaching change and a coaching staff change? Is that kind of handled separately, or is that a part of something you're a part of as well?
As far as what they're looking for?
Personnel within that scouting department. Like, is that Jeff's thing where that's his team, or are you able to
certainly Jeff has done a phenomenal job building his staff, and on that side of this, it's a great group. I'm really, really excited to get to spend more time with them in the coming weeks.
How much, I guess, influence do you have in that, Kellen? I mean, in terms of getting the guy that Kellen Moore likes and fits what he wants.
From
an Ireland standpoint, with that that relationship.
Yeah, just from, if you're talking from a player's perspective, I think it's us just having continuous conversations. I was fortunate. I've spent a lot of time the last week and a half with Jeff, just kind of going through the pro day circuit, so to speak, and so we get to have a lot of conversations through that process, and quickly, Jeff was at Dallas at one point. I was at Dallas. Obviously, we didn't overlap, but just being in the same area at one point, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of discussions that we've had independently that kind of bring us together pretty quickly.
How do you kind of decide where you want to go for a pro day versus, because all the pro days are different days, they overlap? How have you kind of chosen to go?
Jeff really leads the way with that. There's a ton of work behind the scenes just to get the logistics right and get the opportunities to grab a dinner with a player, grab some meeting time in a classroom. There's a lot of work that group did, and they did an excellent job. It was really awesome.
Tom, what's the advantage of getting a handful of guys from one school together at a dinner and meeting them that way as opposed to just maybe like the one-on-one?
We obviously get to watch the film, so we have a good feel for what they have from a skill set perspective. I think it's really getting to know the person, really getting to know the dynamic. I was talking about how valuable the locker room is, how valuable that is, and you want to make sure you bring in the right type of guys that are going to fit the locker room and help that group.
So is it like more natural when you kind of get a couple of them together? You see like more of the real personality as opposed to the button side?
Anytime the guys get to spend time with their former teammates, current teammates, whatever you want to call it, you get a little bit more of the traditional person. It's not a job interview where they're sitting around with a handful of older folks that are quizzing them and testing them.
A couple of places you've been, at least we've seen pictures of you in such a pro days of other quarterbacks have been there. What do you look for kind of just in a young quarterback coming out of college, given your experience in the position and all that?
Yeah, the quarterback position obviously is a valuable position in our league. We all know that. So I'm a quarterback guy. I do like seeing quarterbacks. We had, as we went through our process, there were a couple as we went through the stops, and so when you're going through those guys, you watch a lot of film on quarterbacks naturally, because you're watching both sides of the ball now. And you look for the skill set that they need. They got to reach a certain threshold, but then really understanding the person and understanding the classroom aspect of it is huge. And so you spend as much time with these guys as you can.
How much do you have to account for Derek's getting older, just planning for the future along with?
I think every team in the NFL is always trying to bring in quarterbacks and develop them under any circumstance. And so everyone does homework every year on quarterbacks. It's a very valuable position, and so obviously we feel like we have Derek, who's played a ton of football and we feel great about, and then we have certainly our organization has invested in quarterbacks the last few years with Spencer, Jake, and then Ben, and so we got a number of guys that we're excited to develop as well.
When it comes to just touched on it, but what's the value of taking swings year after year at that position?
Yeah, I think anytime you can add value to the room, I think is important because it is a developmental position. The age of the quarterbacks peaking is usually a little later. Those guys take a little bit longer. They have longer careers than other positions, and so these guys sometimes take a little bit of time. You got to have patience and ability to spend time with those guys and develop them in a consistent system.
You mentioned the quarterback room as it's constructed now. Assuming that no other quarterbacks are added, how would you go about sort of determining the backup quarterback role behind Derek Carr with the young guys in Ben?
Yeah, just go through a full offseason process. Obviously, give all those guys opportunities. We'll have plenty of opportunities through OTAs, through training camp, through preseason football. Those guys will get plenty of chances.
And would your goal to be to have that backup solidified before the season began, or to even take that competition into the season?
In almost every circumstance, you want to have it defined going into the season. You got to know who your backup quarterback is, and just understand there's a progression there. And not gonna say never ever, but feel like it's pretty strong. Just because of the reps in season, you have to have it set in a certain way. Really, the third guy in a regular season only gets so many reps. It's hard to have three guys platooning in that situation. How's it going?
Weird, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
What conversations do you have? What do you need to learn?
Yeah, obviously the player from our perspective, Chris is a phenomenal player. Phenomenal player has had a huge impact on this team. He's going to have a huge impact from a medical side. On my side of it's just education and understanding the circumstances he is in. Obviously we feel very comfortable with Chris, understand he's been through a lot the last year or two, and so we feel like there's a plan in place to continue to let him progress, and certainly I get the feeling that he's really, really excited about this opportunity.
This might be even deeper question, but if my memory serves, you were still in charge of job at
That was my first year, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember some of that? Like, is that getting back in your head a little bit?
I don't remember as much just because that was my rookie year.
Yeah.
And he ended up not, it was really just that first off season, and then it ended up not working out.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was that
Yeah.
triggered it.
Yeah.
What do you guys, Brandon Cooks out? How do you see his fit with the other receivers?
Yeah, I had never met Brandon. Our circles were very close. Him being a Northwest guy, playing at Oregon State, and then obviously going to Dallas at one point as well. Phenomenal leader, phenomenal player. I think that combination is very valuable for us. He can still run, he can still play. He had kind of an unfortunate season last year just with the injuries and the setbacks with relation to that. So his targets and catches and stuff were down. If he plays a full season, they probably look a really heck of a lot different. And so we feel like he's still got the player in him, and the leader that he's going to be will be hugely valuable just for our entire team.
Is there a body type there that you guys would like, or can you get it done with three guys that are all kind of?
Yeah, there's flexibility within that. Obviously, hey, anybody in a perfect world wants to have a basketball team with some tall, some short, some quick, some big. We're flexible. We're flexible, and certainly the people part of it is really, really valuable to us, and we feel like we brought in an excellent player in person in Brandon.
How much was kind of adding more speed to that core also a part of that equation of bringing Brandon in?
Well, that's certainly what you're bringing when you bring Brandon in. we do feel like we have some size behind him. We have some speed still behind him and some younger guys that we're excited to continue to develop. But, you're looking for certain people that fit your locker room who still can play at a really high level. We feel like we hit both of those with Brandon.
And where does, I don't know how much coaching you've had with him yet, but what means, of course, who they invested in last year in the draft, just your first impressions of him?
Yeah, feel great with the direction he's going. Obviously, I haven't been on the field or in the classroom with him yet, but small interactions, great. Film, you're excited about the prospect that he is.
How comfortable kind of for Juwan?
Yeah. Obviously, we're really, really excited to team up with him again. I think that was one of those ones that we talk about, like free agencies, they have a choice, and so we were really excited that he chose us to come back, to be back in the city of New Orleans. That's a huge aspect to us, and so he's been a really good player in this league. We're excited with where he can go. Certainly his ability with the ball in his hands is critical. It's very valuable. His ability to play in the second and third level, a little deeper passing game concepts with the tight ends. Not all the guys can stretch the field that much vertically, and we feel like he can, and so I think some of the stuff we've done in the past with these tight ends that we've had in some other stops, we feel like we can add to his game.
You mentioned the late night.
How comfortable do you feel with your running back? You have a known commodity in Alvin, but a decent amount of unknown behind him.
It's how every offseason usually goes. You have a really, really good player in Alvin, and so we got some guys that we're excited to continue to develop. And so, long process as you go through this. I'm sure there'll be other guys added, draft, free agency, undrafted free agents. There's a lot of different opportunities to add guys there, and so we'll just kind of let it play out. But we feel good that we got some guys that we are continuing to develop.
Juwan had mentioned a late night phone call to you being a really important part of his decision to return to New Orleans. Is that just kind of the type of coach that you want to be?
I think every player is going to go through a different process, and so certainly I understand his side of it. He's going through a process where he's deciding whether to come back to a place that has a new coaching staff. And so just having those questions, understanding what the situation is going to look like, what the situation is going to present himself, it's going to look different than what he was a part of in 2024. And so, those conversations were valuable to him, which I think was a great thing for us.
Do you remember what you were doing when he called?
I think I was starting to pack our house.
I was just curious about your process in that. Are you the type of coach where if you see a player's name, you're answering the phone no matter what it is that you're doing? How important was that for you, just like it was for him?
No, hugely important. I think understanding, putting yourself in the player's shoes, those are critical, life-changing decisions. They're really, really hard decisions. Coaches go through it. When you go through transitions, players go through it. You sympathize with that. You just want to give them the information that they need to make the best decision for them and their family.
You mentioned the offensive line back at the combine. I was wondering about Fuaga just switching to left tackle. Do you guys still see him as a left tackle, or how do you?
Yeah, we see him as left tackle. I mean, he can play anywhere. I mean, he's a big-time player.
And similarly with Trevor Penning, I know he made that transition from left to right last year's right tackle, so the spot that you.
Yeah, we got him there. Yeah, we feel good. Continue to develop.
Do you feel like, with the draft on the way here very shortly, scarily shortly, do you feel that there's more to be done on the roster in free agency before you get to the draft? Do you feel like you're in a place where you can walk into the draft today and feel pretty good about it?
Certainly, if something presents itself, we won't hesitate. It's, again, the whole offseason is a long process of player acquisitions. Sometimes everyone jumps the gun early and thinks this is how our roster is going to look. It's going to look different as we continue to go through this. And so we feel like we're heading in. I think most of the league is heading into a phase where you're focused on the draft. But one or two items will come up, and you'll talk about them and have discussions about them.
What's your take on the tush-push and banning it or not banning it?
Yeah, obviously I'm very comfortable with the play. There's no injury data. Percentage-wise, the likelihood of converting on it's pretty much the same as any other one. I don't see any issues.
What do you think I know the Green Bay said pace the play and they said player safety, but as you mentioned, the injury data is not actually there. It's kind of all hypothetical and what could happen.
Yeah.
What do you think is there another reason for this proposal? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously most of it's subjective.